React challenge, lower beginner. So we got many people solving all the questions, some people solving 4 out of 5, and one person answering 3 out of 5 questions. So let's quickly reveal the team results, Alpha versus Bravo. I think so far all the challenges got to the Alpha team. So let's see if it's any different today. By the way, now you got, probably noticed these breadcrumbs here, so it should be relatively easier to jump through the different results. Anyway, so what we got today? 5 versus 7, Team Alpha. So what's their score today? 94. So that's pretty cool, So you can see the difference between the first and the fourth player is about 17 points, which is not too bad. It's almost perfect. So it's going to be very challenging for the Bravo team to get a better score, but let's see. Lower beginner, 75. It wasn't that good. And once again, as you can see here, or you cannot yet, but the difference between the first and the fourth player is 21. 17 versus 21. It's always about team efforts, guys. Cool. Say it again? No. Cool. All right. So that was lower beginner, and this is now beginner. So on beginner, it's something slightly similar, I guess, right? So many people solving 5 questions. Someone playing Street Fighter mode. I think today you have excuse, right? Because the platform didn't work for a few minutes. So yeah, let's have a look to the results. Once again, new battle, Alpha versus Bravo. So, yep, who's been playing here today? It's pretty much the same thing, So on the team Alpha, they got 94. Hey, wait a minute, that's the same challenge, right? Wait. I'm talking bullshit now. Sorry about that, guys. So I select the wrong challenge. I think that is the right challenge. We'll find that in a second. So the beginner level, right? So beginner 2-star. Here you go. That's the actual beginner level. So let's see what we got today. Still pretty much the same, 5 versus 7. In this case, Juraj got replaced by Daria, supporting the team Bravo. Let's see how important that support from Russia was this morning. So average score, not average, median score for the team Alpha. 83 still pretty strong, So this is going to be a very tough battle for the Bravos. So their average score, median score was 86, not that bad. And once again, well, in this case, I think that the team worked better. Look, ignoring Daria because she was not here. You see, from the second to the fourth, only 4 points, So that's pretty cool. Good stuff, guys. Get in there. And finally, we got the upper beginner, which was obviously a bit more difficult, right? I've seen some of you struggling a bit here. So once again, let's have a look to the results. Upper beginning will be a third victory for the team Alpha. No? All right, let's see if the Bravos manage to change the trend by the first time. Oh, now Daria supporting Alpha. This is not going to help. Anyway, median score for the Alpha team is 81. Still pretty cool, right? It's very, very good. You see Kaini leading the pack, following by Daria, Alex, and Chuck. So now on the team Bravo, 51. Cool. Not bad, guys. Well done. So now let's proceed with the review. As you know, this is the last time you play React Challenge as a team. Why? Because once you go to a job interview, you won't get the help from your colleagues. So at some point, you need to be able to solve problems by yourself. Historically speaking, all the challenges were individual, but we realized that it may be a good idea, at least at the beginning, to play as a team, especially for the less experienced players. It's a bit less intimidating. That was the idea, at least. So let me prepare just the snippets. So this is the upper level. So this is the beginner level, and finally we can play the lower beginner. Actually, we will start from the lower beginner level. If I'm right, sorry, wait a minute, what's wrong? I cannot play the lower beginner. Why? Let me try again. Oh, that's a bit weird. I cannot play it. Yeah, don't ask me why, guys. Can I play the beginner level? Yes, I can play beginner. I don't know why I cannot play beginner, lower beginner. I'll try later on. It says that in theory, should be able to play in 8 minutes. So I'll try later on. Let's start with the beginner level. So, is there any particular question you want to focus on the beginner level? Any question in particular?
I don't remember the question number, but let's see.
All right. So, yeah.
Okay, I can ask a question on this. There's a welcome.text. What does that this text signify?
Yeah. So this is the React testing library framework. Yeah. So the way it works is, first of all, you are expected to have a welcome component. So then there is a method in React testing library. We'll talk a bit more about that, I think, this Friday. So we'll have a second workshop about TDD. So as part of the workshop, we will explain which frameworks are involved here. Yeah? And one of them essentially has a method called text. So that text method will check the text, yeah, and surprisingly, that your component displays on the screen. So in other words, to keep the long story short, please create a welcome component which text displays welcome to React. Yeah? That's pretty much it. Actually, if you want, based on what Anita suggested, let me present all the 5 questions, and then if you want to talk about anyone in particular, we can stop there. So that was question number 1, welcome message. Question number 2, display an input text. Question number 3, show player details. Question number 4, display the details of a given user. And question number 5, display the total score. 3? All right, yeah, let's do question number 3 then. So question number 3 was, once again, show player details, right? Cool.
There was something about class 2 class names.
Yes. There is no input text here, guys.
I want question number 2. Yeah, even I had the same.
I think you were using question 4 on the other video.
Guys,
Can you
So-
question
That was in the same tab.
guys, I'm lost. I don't know what you're talking about now.
I want to discuss on 2.
So, okay, wait. Anita wants to discuss question number 2. Let's do this, right? Easy. All right, so question number 2.
Okay, so there's input type equal to text here on the wrapper.find.
Yes.
So I got confused whether we need to write input type equal to text in the code and then followed by or it can be replaced with paragraph tag. There was a confusion.
Well, that's a CSS selector, right? What you can see here, input type text, is a CSS selector. So that has nothing to do with React, actually. So the way you read that is, please create an element, a tag element of type input. Yeah, you can create a div, you can create a label, you can create a P, you can create whatever, yeah? So in this case, you are expected to create a tag of type input, where users can interact, can add some details. And then what's the type of the input? In that particular case, is type text. Can you figure out any other type of input apart from type text? Password, yeah? When you do type input type password, you get like the stars or the circles, like this is a private field. What else? Checkbox, correct? Say again? Email, correct? Yeah, so there are different types of inputs in HTML, right? So this is the most fundamental one. It's just free text. You can type whatever you want. So on the right-hand side, look, that has been partially created, input type text. Yeah, that's why it works, because it's looking for an element with a tag input on it and the attribute type with value text. That's it. So Actually, yeah. So then I just need to fill the gap, right? And the gap is the value is missing. Yeah. So how do you add the value to an input text?
Value
Value
equal to
equal to what?
open curly braces props dot value.
Props dot what? Looking at the signature of the component. How many props the text component receives? 2. Props dot value, and then props dot placeholder. So if you just want to get the value, you just display props dot value. Yeah? So that will display an input text, an input that the user can edit, can modify, but by default, the text on the input will be Donald Trump or whatever. Yeah? That's the way it works.
So I have a very basic question. So can we not close the input tag with like a slash input? It breaks. It was breaking
That's a good
for me
question. So what Anita is asking is, so let me go back to maybe my Visual Studio Code. Maybe let me try to zoom that. So oh god. So if I got div, yeah, I open and I close it, and then in here I do my stuff, right? But if you notice, with the input, it doesn't. We don't do that, right? So with the majority of the HTML elements, you open the element and then you close it. But with the input, you don't do that. You do this. Same with the image. Have you noticed when you add an image to Callflix? Whatever, yeah? This self-closing tag. Can anybody see the difference between image and input against a div, for instance? Yeah, that's right. So, the majority of the HTML tags can be nested. Yeah, you can have a div, and inside of the div, you can have another div, or a label, whatever. Yeah, you can nest HTML elements. However, you cannot add anything inside of an input. You cannot do that. That's illegal. That's not the way an input works. Yeah? An input is a leaf element. There is nothing inside of an input. Same thing applies to an image. You cannot add an HTML element inside of an image. That doesn't make sense. So for these tags that cannot have anything inside, we use the self-closing tag, because you cannot add anything in between of the opening and the closing. You cannot create this type of burger or sandwich, yeah, of tags. That doesn't make sense here. That's why you open and close it. Does it make sense? Any questions? No? I mean, that works, right? I think I tried that. That should work. Here you go. No, it doesn't? Oh, no, yeah. Oh, yeah. It jumped to the next question, sorry. So, Andrea, you wanted to do...
No, I figured out what's this.
Okay. So, do you want to do any other question in particular? Last one, okay. Last one was question number 5. Display total score, this one? Cool. So, how many props the total score component receives? 1, correct. Props, not scores, that's it, yeah? And then scores is an array of numbers. So based on the array of numbers, we want to add them all, yeah? 34 plus 35 plus 36 equals 105. Fantastic. So once again, the component has been partially created. And the main thing here is we're creating a variable called total score where we want to add all the numbers. Some of you may have tried to use something like reduce or something like that. Unfortunately, because the placeholder is so small, if you try to type a lot, this is something not correctly handled by the Codery platform, right? Because you cannot type anything beyond that point. However, because this is so simple, and considering that may not be super sexy, why don't you do that? Yeah? Our arrays have 3 elements. Once again, I'm not saying this is a super cool approach, but it's pragmatic. Yeah? You get an array of 3 elements, 0, 1, and 2, add them all. So then, what do we display here? Correct, you are right, guys, total score. So hopefully, it should be it. Here you go. Yeah, then that won't work. Yeah. Definitely. So, okay, we can do that, guys. So with reduce, where is my, let me open DevTools. Let's add all the numbers dynamically. In other words, if I go back to sources and I open my DevTools and blah, 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 blah. Oh, not that much, right? So if I got a function called sum and I pass 3, 1, and 2, so of course I can do, so numbers, I can do return numbers 0 plus numbers 1 plus numbers 2, and that should be okay, right? If I run this, it should rename the function, right? Sum. Okay, so if I try this, yeah, it works, but what Rochelle suggests is, what if I add another number? Will that still work? No, that will return 6, but that's not right. The result of adding 3, 1, 2, and 2 is not 6, it's 8 instead. So how can we dynamically add all the numbers? Can anyone propose something using reduce? Anyone apart from Alex? So numbers dot reduce. Number, yeah, and then total plus number. All right, so just to see if that makes any sense, let's add the classic reduce table. So iteration number 1, Octavian, what's the value of total?
I don't understand this arrow functions. I need to.
Have you watched the multiple videos we've done about reduce? No? All right.
No, I didn't watch any videos actually.
So you know what's your next priority, right? Andrea, what's the value of total? You said it's free. Why free? Correct, it's the first element of the array. So what is the number, Rochelle? You think it's free, all right? Do you agree on that, guys? No, it's not free because that's the total. No, wrong. 0, 3, 4, 0, 5, 8, 43. It's 1, that's right. Why is 1? Why total is free and number is 1? Total is free because as we are not passing any default value, yeah, total, or the first total, will be the first element of the array, number 3. So then, what will be the next number? It cannot be free again, because if it was free, then it wouldn't be able to calculate the total, it will fail. So the first number will be the next one, 1. So iteration number 2, Yiyun, what's the total? You are right, it's 4. Sorry, I forgot to say what do we return, but that's the same, right? We return 3 plus 1, which is 4. So now, Florin, what's the new number? 2. That's right. So what do we return, Chuck?
6.
That's right. So on the next iteration, Fish, what's iteration number 3? What's the total? You are right. That's 6. So what's the new number, Anita? 2. So what do we return, Camila? 8. That's right. So on the 4th iteration, what's the total, Alex? You don't need it? Is there any 4th iteration? No, we end at the end of the loop, right? That's it. So that will be the eventual result, which is right. 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 2, 8. Yeah? So how many iterations do we have? 3, that's right. Let's repeat the exercise. I know I'm talking many time about reduce, but once again, you cannot go to a geob interview and hesitate about these things. You cannot, yeah? That's not allowed. As simple as that. So, iteration number 1. Let's start again. Andrea, I'm not going to ask Octavian until you watch the videos, right? 0. So, total, now why total is 0, not 1? Yeah, you see now we are declaring a default initial value for reduce. So essentially Andrea is right. That will be the first value of the total. So what's the first number, Rochelle? That's right. So what do we return, Yiyun? That's right. On iteration number 2, Florin, what's the total? And what's the number, Chuck?
Number is 1.
Correct. So what do we return, Anita? So iteration number 3, what's the total, Camila? Okay, so what's the number, Alex? So what do we return, Kaini? 6. Is there any iteration number 4 now? Yes, because we still got another 2 number missing, right? So let's start again, Andrea. So what's the total now? It's 6. So what's the number, Rochelle? That's right. So what do we return, Yiyun? 8. So what happened on iteration number 5, Florin? There is no iteration number 5, right? That's it. We end up here. Obviously, the result is the same. So which option is better, with or without the default? Oh, what happened today? Is with or without the default value? Why without?
Because we're iterating quicker, 3 instead of 4.
Yeah, it's more performant. Yeah, with the default value, how many iterations we have? 4. Yeah, the cost of the algorithm, trying to be precise from a math point of view, is 4n. You have to iterate 4 times. However, without the default value, what's the cost of completing this algorithm? That's correct, 3n, which is better. Yeah? I mean, is it going to make a difference in your life? No. Yeah? It's just subtle, but it's important to at least prove that you know that subtle difference. Cool. So back to our code. So that's the thing, right? That's what, to be precise here, we should use reduce. We should use reduce instead of that crappy hard-coded sum.
But one question: omitting the default value is okay. I mean, is okay and efficient in this scenario, but it's not in the case in all the scenarios, right?
I never said you can always get rid of the default value. Let's present another example, guys. So instead of sum, I want to get the average. Yeah. So by getting the average, I know this is a bit off topic, but I think that's important, right? So for instance, without doing any calculation, what's the average of 3, 1, and 2? It's 2, right? Okay. So can we calculate the average? I know that to calculate the average, you may be thinking, let's get the total first. Let's add all the values, and then let's divide it by the length of the array, which is right. So we can get the total. So, I mean, we can do let total equals, yeah, we can do that. And then return what? I mean, yeah, that's right. That's not right. Sorry, I need to rename the function, right? Average. That's right. It works. It works. In reality, we are doing 6 divided by 3, yeah, equals 2. But I hope you agree with me. There is a smarter way of running the operation without doing that, and the smarter way is 3 divided by 3 plus 1 divided by 3 plus 2 divided by 3. That's the same. Why? 3 thirds plus 1 third plus 2 thirds equals what? 6 thirds, correct. 6 thirds. And that's what? 2. Yeah? So that's a different way from a maths point of view. You don't have to necessarily learn that, but that's a different way to solve the problem. Yeah? So what's the benefit of this approach? I don't have to get the total and then divide it, blah, blah, blah. No. I can do it in one instruction. So I can do, look, return numbers.reduce. We call it average number. And then you can do what? Average plus number divided by, let me move that to a new line, divided by numbers dot length. Does it make sense? Maybe if you want to add parentheses, even though they are not necessary. No, they are not necessary. Yeah? So, I mean, should we try that? Let's see if it works. Yes, it works, right? So that code is the same. That's equivalent. But back to what Anita asked before. Will that make any difference? So can I get rid of it? Yeah, no. All right, let's figure it out. I mean, okay, cool. Let's find out. That question, that's tricky actually. Yeah, that's tricky. That's classic job interview question as well. So iteration number 1. Let's start again. Andrea. So what's the value of average? Three. Wrong. It's 0. So what's the value? What's the number, Rochelle? It's 3, that's correct. So what do we return, Jiyun? 0. You agree on that? No. 3 divided 3. Correct. 3 divided by 3. That's 1, right? Essentially. So iteration number 2. Florin, what's the average so far? Correct. So what's the number, Chuck?
1.
Yeah. So what do we return? Sorry, Anita.
It's
3
3 divided by 3 plus 1
divided by 3
plus 1, which
plus 1, and that, what's that?
2.
That's 2. Or in other words, that's yeah, if you want, because that will facilitate things a bit. So now, iteration number 3. So what's the current average, Camila? Yeah, correct. So what's the last number, fish? Yeah, that's right. So, Alex, what do we return?
We've gone wrong.
Yeah.
Say it again.
We've gone wrong.
We're going wrong. Yeah, what did we going wrong?
It should be 1 over 3, not 3 over 3.
We're here.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So then what? What's the problem? Yeah. So why 1/3? Because the second number was 1. Sorry. Yeah. 1 divided by 3. I did that on purpose to see if you were paying attention. So 3/3 plus 1/3 is what? 4/3. We got 4/3. So now, Alex, what will you return here?
6/3.
So it's 4/3, whatever it was, plus 2, right?
2/3.
2/3, correct. Plus 2/3. And what is that?
6/3.
Correct. And 6/3 from a human point of view is what? 2. That's right. Yeah? So that works. That clearly works. But now, let's repeat the exercise. Removing. You see? I'm just removing the default value. Let's see if that made any impact or not on the eventual solution. So what's the average, Rochelle? It's 3. You're right. It's 3. Correct. So now, what's the first number, Jiyun? Second. Anyone can help Jiyun?
1.
It's 1, correct. Because as we don't have any default value, the first accumulator value will be the first element. So then the first number has to be the next one, the second. Yeah, it's going to be 1. So what do we return, Florin?
4.
So 4. Why 4? So it will be 3. Sorry, plus 1 divided by what? 1/3. What's that? That's 4/3, right? Yeah? Is it 4/3? No, that's not 4/3. So that's equivalent to 9/3. Correct, so it's 10/3. It's not looking good already. But anyway, let's continue. Maybe it works eventually, yeah? Iteration number 2. So what's the average, Chuck?
10/3.
That's correct. 10/3. So what's the number, Anita? That's right. So what do we return, Camila? Plus 2/3. And that is what? 12/3. So what happened on iteration number 3, Alex? There isn't. So then, this algorithm will return number 4. Is 4 the average of 3, 2, and 1? Clearly not, clearly not, clearly not. So, in other words, even though getting rid of the default value could be good from a performance point of view, you need to be careful. You need to be careful. In some circumstances, you cannot. You cannot, because then you are modifying the behavior of your algorithm. Yeah? Cool. So, yep. Yeah. Here, I don't know, maybe we did it wrong. Let's recap. No, because the first number.
The average was 3.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, exactly.
3 over 1 is the same.
Yeah, that's right. The first average is the first number, 3. And because I want to calculate adding fractions, blah, 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 so number 3 is the same as 9/3. Because to me it's easier to add 9/3 plus 1/3 than 3 plus 1/3. Mentally speaking, I think that's easier, yeah? Anything else? No? All right. So that was that question. Yeah. So that's the, the way you can solve it.
It's always, whenever, it's better to use assign the initial value only in these cases. Otherwise, it's efficient to omit it. Is that the way?
If you're unsure, always have a default value. Yeah. I think it's safer.
Okay.
It's safer. Cool. So yeah, that was the intermediate level. Let's do a bit of upper. Guys, any question in particular about the upper level?
I think question 4 is the one.
Question 4. All right, let's go straight to question 4. Was it analyze scores?
Yeah, it's
Cool.
I'll take it, right?
No, I was talking about a different one.
Is this one Andrea was talking about?
No, a different one. So
Which one?
we found it. No, yeah, it was the one before this. I think.
One before? Okay, so let's go to question number 3. 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, but that one?
No.
Guys, when you do the challenge, please write down the question number, right? I'm struggling with question number 24. Then this process is a bit easier. So, yeah, do you want to do any question in particular here? No? That means, but okay, all right. So if you don't want to do any questions, you know what I'm going to do next, right? I'm going to check what you've done, and I will see who has failed, and then we can review that question. So, what happened here? Hello? Oh, it's a bit slow. Sorry about that. So, question number 1, everyone solved it. Question number 2. So, for instance, Rochelle and Jiyun, you skip question number 2. Because you ran out of time. Okay, understood. So, yeah, so I guess that problem applies to all the other questions. If you don't want to review any questions, we can leave it here, right? I got 10 minutes, so that's up to you guys.
Question number 5, because I
Okay,
don't
let's,
have time to do it.
cool,
I don't know
thank
what
you,
the question
thank you,
is.
Anita. Let's do question number 5. So I think it's here, question number, yeah, that's skip. So question number 5, sorry, you cannot see anything, right? All right, so let's refresh the page and let's go to question number 5.
Yeah, is the same question as we just did
Oh.
with reduce?
I don't know, let's have a look. I don't know. So question number 5, so 3, 4, and 5. Display total score, yeah? So how many props do we receive? 1, that's right, scores, right? So you are right, Kaini. In here, we want to get the total, yeah? The total of adding all these scores. So we can simply create a new variable, total, and then do scores dot reduce total, and then score, and then total plus score. Do we need the default value here? Not at all, yeah? So, yeah, just to keep the long story short, you don't need the default value if a given calculation doesn't depend on the previous one, yeah? So to add 1 and 2 and 3, it doesn't really matter what on the third iteration what happened on the second one. But if you want to get the average keeps moving depending on the numbers. Yeah, that's why you need the default value. So anyway, you get the total. And once again, if you're not sure, just add it. Yeah? If you're not sure, just keep the default value, and then it's going to be easier. So then what? Then we just want to split the total, right? The total score is, and then total. Yeah? Something like that, I believe. Yeah. I think it was a relatively easy challenge, to be honest. There was nothing particularly complicated. So how can I, imagine that I don't want to write this line. Yeah? That's the exercise that an employer shows you. What do you need to change? How, apart from Alex, how do we destructure that line? Curly brace, and then what? Scores, you're right. You're right. See, it's good that these things start something familiar. Yeah?
Sorry, did you say that you don't need a default value when the second doesn't manifest?
Yeah, so the thing is, if you want to get the total in a list of values, you got number 3, number 1, and number 2. The only thing you know is you want to add a value based on what? On whatever was the total before, yeah? 3 plus 1. I don't care if it's 3 plus 1 or 3 plus 2 or 3 plus 4, I don't care. What I know is out of that total, I want to add a new value, yeah? There is no dependency with the previous values. In this particular case, you can skip the default one. However, if you want to get the average, the problem with the average is to get the average, you really need to know all the values. Yeah? I know, to me, that's a bit hard to explain, but that's pretty much the idea. And once again, if you're unsure, once again, having the default value, it's not that performance, you remember what we explained before, because it has to iterate one more time. However, it's safer. Yeah? Any questions?
Is there a way you can have the reduced operation nested inside of the term?
Interesting.
That's what I was trying to do.
So okay, that's a good point. So what Chuck wants is essentially to return something immediately. Yes, look, I can copy that. Oh, sorry. I can try to, I can try to copy that. Then you can paste it here. Yeah? Every time you use the curly brace, you can do whatever you want inside. Of course, someone, sorry, I didn't copy something. Yeah? Look, you see? You're right, guys. I forgot to copy the last parenthesis. Well done. So if I add the right syntax and I test, I think eventually, you see, that works, right? Of course, to me, from an elegance perspective, that line is a bit long. So if I were you, I will try to do something like that, maybe. I hope you agree with me, that's a bit more readable. However, even though that's technically speaking okay, you see it works, in reality, I'm not a big fan. Because to me, the HTML part should be the easier the better. I'm not a big fan, and this is just a personal thought based on readability. Based on readability, I think sometimes reading the HTML bit is a bit hard. Yeah? So how do we keep that complexity under control? Well, then just moving away the complexity. Yeah? Creating a variable, yeah? Doing something like that, and then you see why this is better, because now if I wanted, look, I could even calculate the total on a separate function, right? So can I do that? You see my point? So now I can pass the list of scores. So now return, yeah, something like that. So now, can anyone complete the exercise for me?
Get total in the total score is,
Here, like that?
and pass the argument score.
Yeah, we need to pass the scores, right? So if I run this code, still works. And to me, that's a beautiful solution, yeah? Because once again, do you remember the example I gave you this morning about the logical operator and or? I'm moving the complexity of my algorithm to a new function. So even if you struggle, imagine that you struggle to understand this line. You didn't notice here we're trying to get the total. Even if that's the case, thanks to the function name get total, you may be thinking, okay, even though I have no idea what's going on here, at least this developer created a function to get the total, and that's what we are eventually showing to the user.
I have one question. I'm not sure which question it relates to, but when we access a value of an object,
Yes.
I tried to access it using the dot operator, but it wasn't working. Only when I used the square, then
Okay.
it started. It's something to do with the keys. I don't remember.
All right, let's present the example and then we'll leave it here. So Anita, look, I'm writing an algorithm. So get Anita stuff. And then what?
An object.
Okay, an object, let user equals, that's an object, and then what?
Maybe name
Name Anita, and then what?
and maybe age.
Age, 19.
Okay.
Okay, so that was the question.
If I try to access from here user.name.
Okay, so return user.name. So you think that doesn't work?
It works here, but in one of the, it should work actually.
Yeah, with the map, we were trying to
But,
access
yeah.
dynamically the keys, because the keys, we didn't know what the key is. So you wanted to access the key dynamically and return the value.
Maybe if you go through the questions.
Yes, okay, let's go through the questions. So, all right, so it was question number 1 or question number 2? No, or question number
No, not that one. Okay.
question number 3.
It was in the beginner, it wasn't enough the beginner.
I was on beginner.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that was beginner if I'm right. So question number 1, no, that was upper already, right? Okay, sorry guys, that's a bit confusing. So okay, that's the beginner level. So you say the question number 4, user, was it a question?
I think so, yes.
Okay, then let's do that. And then we'll leave it here. So question number 4, let me zoom the page a bit. So, yep, here we go. And then let me refresh, display the details of a given user. So yeah, I don't know why students keep struggling with the concept that we clearly specify that there is a question on JavaScript beginner, question number 3, where we cover that in particular. So this is about accessing dynamic properties of an object. So look, how many props the user component receives? One, just the user. So if we want to access the name, it will be props.user.name. So then according to this exercise, we have to add an element with class name detail, and that element will have, no, actually there will be like 2 elements. Look, details is an array, so there are 2 details about the user with the name and the age. But in reality, that's dynamic, because if we look at the second assertion, we still got user, but in this case, we don't have name and age, right? We have something different. We have first and last name. So still we got 2 elements, but now obviously the details change because we got different information about the user. So on the left-hand side, we want to display, according to this exercise, the key. Yeah? First name, display the key. Last name, display the key. And on the right-hand side, we want to display the value associated to each key. So, if I show you this problem, but I want to return the name, I will do user.name, and then it will work. If I want to return the age, I will do user.age, and it will work, no problem. But what if I want to dynamically fetch either the name or the age? Look, In JavaScript, once again, question number 3 on a beginner JavaScript, you can do that. If instead of using the dot notation, you access the square bracket notation, you can dynamically either get the age or get the name or whatever. And why this is beneficial? Because can I pass a variable like that? That's the same, right? So here I'm telling A, give me the name associated to the user. So if we run it, it returns Anita. I can pass the age as well. What if I pass the email? What will that return? Undefined, that's right, Florin. Because we don't have any property called email. That's why it returns undefined. So that's the way you can dynamically get one property or a different one out of an object. And that's literally what the exercise is expecting you to do.
What if I, in the previous example, right?
Yep, here.
What if using a dot operator, can I not
No.
use it dynamically?
No, wrong. With the dot operator, you access one property or another one, but you cannot dynamically decide which one you want to use. That's the problem. So that's why in this particular exercise, you definitely need that. So first of all, how do we display the key associated to each property of the object? Well, you got the key here, right? So we can just display, can we do that? Key like that? In curly brace, right? What happened without the curly brace?
Just print key.
Correct, it will just display key statically, hard-coded, which is weird. So now, how do we get the value associated to that particular key?
In the curly braces, props dot user.
Can we do that? I'm sure someone tried that, right?
Yeah, I tried.
Props dot user dot key, but that won't work because that will look for something like that. Yeah. So if you do user dot key, I mean, what will that return?
Very romantic.
Very romantic, but just because, out of coincidence, I got a prop called key. Yeah. But if I don't really want to do that, if I have a variable called key, that will be either the name or will be the age or will be whatever, that won't work. That won't work. That will still display very romantic. And I will say, hey, what the hell? That function returns very romantic if I want to return the age. That's because the syntax is wrong. Dot notation will statically find a key called key or Brexit or Trump. If you don't want to do that, if you want to dynamically access a property, then you need the square bracket notation, and that will hopefully return 19. How can I return very romantic without altering that code? What should I pass here? Key, correct. I want to access a property, a weird property called key, and then it will work.
What if you don't pass anything? Will it return all three?
It's a good question. Like that. I don't know. It's a good question. Let's think about that. So, is that legal, first of all? Because what's the value of key? It's undefined. So, yeah, okay, fair enough. It returns undefined because it doesn't really know. The example is the same as typing that, right? Like, I don't really know what you want to do. Because of that, I will just return undefined. Yeah? That's a corner case. So back to the problem. We don't want to access a particular property called key. That doesn't make sense. We don't got that. We get the first name or the last name or the age or whatever. So what do we have to type here?
Key in square bracket.
Like that?
Yeah.
Or like that? Without the quote, right? Because that's a variable. That variable will be first name or last name or sex or whatever. Yeah? All right. So then if we test it, then it works. So once again, JavaScript beginner question number 3, dynamic props, very important. I think there is a link to W3 Schools where they told you a bit of, there is a lot of literacy about that. Yeah. Anything else? No? Cool, that was it, guys.